This is Betting Weekly Extra Time, Champions League edition. You're with myself, Dan Roebuck, alongside me, Steve Wyss, Will White and RJ, as we look ahead to the first leg of the semi-finals of Europe's top competition. If you were with us back in September, you'll know we've got some live picks on both sides of the draw from a futures point of view in the shape of Bayern and Paris Saint-Germain. But, Steve, as I wish you a very good day, where would your money be going now? And those two picks, not the only picks that we've got riding for us since the start of the competition.
And I wish you a very good day as well, Dan. How are you? Hope you're well.
All good.
Will and RJ, welcome to the show. We're really at the crunch stage now of the Champions League semi-finals. And, in terms of our outright bets that we've had throughout the course of the year, I think, the semi-finals are obviously quite good for us because we've got 2 tickets left on PSG at 16-1. We've got a ticket on Bayern at plus 550 and also another one at plus 500. We've got 2 tickets on Harry Kane to be the top scorer at plus 400. I think that's a combination of myself, Will, and Daniele. RJ, for some reason, we didn't get RJ on the outright shows this year. But so it's not.
Must have been another stag party or something. I might have been.
I don't know. So it's not like it, I'm sure RJ would have had one of these teams as well if he had the chance. But yeah, we're looking all right in terms of the outright. So it's quite exciting for the show.
But Real Madrid plus 140, Paris Saint-Germain plus 250, Bayern plus 275, Dortmund 9-1. Will, do those prices look right? If someone gave you a free $20 play on the futures, where would it go?
I think the prices look right. Yeah, I've got a nagging feeling Real Madrid will win the tournament, but they're definitely not value. It's a bit of a dichotomy. It's kind of hard to. It's hard to explain the relationship between value and betting, but yeah, the prices look about right to me.
RJ, any thoughts on the outrights at the moment? I mean, as Steve has just outlined, we've got some live tickets here. I mean, the outlier there is Dortmund, who just keep on getting through. I mean, could they win it at 9-1? I mean, should bettors focus on the favourite? We heard about all the pundits saying that, Real Madrid just know how to, they know this competition. They get the Champions League, the European Cup. What are your thoughts on the outrights?
Yeah, I think I would definitely stay away from Dortmund at plus 900, right? An implied probability of 10%. Very, very risky play. I agree with Will. Real Madrid plus 140. They step up. They have a winning pedigree in this competition, so that's clearly why they're the favorites. But if I had a free $20 or $25 bet, as you stated, I would be looking at Bayern plus 275. They often excel also in European competition. They have an aggressive style. They have good depth. And I think at plus 275, this is probably the best value that you'd find with a really strong chance, right? An implied probability of around 26, 27% to win the trophy. So I would stick with Bayern here.
If Bayern got through to the final to play Paris Saint-Germain, Will, would Bayern be the favourite?
Absolutely, yeah. 100%.
Significant favourite, do you think?
To lift the trophy, I'm going to say I would probably say there'd be minus 140, that kind of range. Obviously, a lot can change between now and then. It would depend on how they'd come through their semi-finals. I'm just going to open my ratings now, actually.
I would have thought it would be more of a pick'em to lift the trophy if that was the case. Based on,
I look at the prices now and I think, well, Bayern are third favourites, but that's probably because they've got to play Real Madrid. Once they get beyond Real Madrid, they would be shorter than Paris Saint-Germain.
Yeah, and PSG are playing by far the weakest team left in the tournament. So yeah, I definitely have Bayern favourites. I'd have them about quarter of a goal better than PSG. So that probably is about minus 140 to lift the trophy. Yeah, that will be my take anyway. But hopefully we get to cross that bridge when we come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Just say, by the way, just say as he keeps reminding me, and he tipped them up on the reaction show I did with him. Simon Holden did say Real Madrid about a month ago. I think RJ actually said Real Madrid would have been his team at the start of the last 16 round as well. So as long as Dortmund don't win it, someone can take some credit from the app because we win team.
Absolutely.
What about top goal scorer? Mbappe minus 200. Is it? I mean, we've got Kane, obviously, a ticket plus 175 at the moment. Got the hardest semi-final, and Mbappe, Steve, you'd probably take him to score at least one over the course of the two legs against Dortmund. Might 9 be enough here to get that golden boot?
I think Mbappe is in the bag for him. Yeah, I've got to be honest. But you can never rule out Harry Kane, can you? On penalties, a massive goal scoring threat. Look, injuries could still happen. So, it's still close in terms of the race, but Mbappe is definitely the deserving favourite by far now.
Any other thoughts, top goal scorer? Is it pretty much between those two? I mean, Bellingham here, RJ's a 25-1 shot. Can't really see anyone else getting into it, can you?
No, I can't. And as I said last show, I said if PSG were to advance, right, you would assume Mbappe gets on the board, which he did.
Yeah.
And I would still, as Steve said, he looks like the clear lock. I mean, minus 200, there's no value, but Mbappe looks to have the golden boot all day.
Yeah, in fairness to RJ as well, you did mention that ahead of the quarterfinals. I think you said that Mbappe would probably be your play if you had to. Any trends, Will, to follow in semi-finals? 120 matches into the Champions League this season. If you backed home winning every single game, over 3.5 in every single game, both teams to score. Yes, they're all profitable trends for this season. Lots of goals, Will, in the competition again, which reflects what we've seen in some European leagues this season. The average is over 3. Have you spotted anything, or will you be looking out for anything for first leg semi-finals or anything over the course of the competition that you've kept on side trend-wise?
I think the trends that you've mentioned, the home wins trend, kind of makes sense because we've spoken about on this show before how you adjust home advantage upwards in these European competitions. So that kind of aligns with that. The overs goal trend, yeah, we've spoken about that a lot across all of the Betting Weekly Studios podcasts this season. You've got the additional time in the domestic leagues, but that doesn't extrapolate to UEFA competition. But at the same time, you've got just a generally a kind of more aggressive, high pressing approach is more proliferate across these big European teams. Teams are looking to dominate, be on the front foot, and to get the ball back as soon as possible, high up the pitch when they lose it. And I think that's what's leading to more goals. So I think we've correctly identified that trend, especially in Europa League and the Conference League. On this show, I think we've been a bit more even between overs and unders. But yeah, I think there are fair explanations for those trends existing.
I can hear lots of viewers, the thousands that tune in, say, just get on with it and give us some picks. So let's do that, shall we? Bayern Real Madrid is first up, Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern. Bayern are plus 145 here. Real Madrid plus 175. The draw plus 285. Steve, Bayern money line favourites here for the first leg. Is that a little bit of surprise? I don't know where to put Bayern this season. Obviously, they're way off the pace in the Bundesliga with Leverkusen, but they have found a way, haven't they, in the Champions League? They have potentially got significant players back from injury. It still looks a bit weird to see them as clear favourites against Real Madrid. How do you see it?
Yeah, a little bit slightly weird. I mean, I would probably have this match as a complete pick-em, to be honest with you. Not having Bayern maybe as the slight favourites. But the thing is, I think this is one of those where you've got to sort of trust your raw numbers a bit. I think Will's mentioned this throughout the whole campaign that he's always ranked Bayern pretty high because of their strong quality on paper, their strong base numbers, and perhaps that has proved to be the correct judgment at this point in time, despite their turmoil. There is still a lot of positives to say about Bayern Munich. The manager's won this competition before. He's very, very good in a one-off tactical game. So, for me, this whole tie is right on a knife edge for over the two legs, really. I think you could make a case for either team.
Well, what do you make of the money line prices here? I mean, Real Madrid were pretty big against City away from home, bigger than 4-1. They were big at the weekend against Real Sociedad. But managed to win that, I guess, because of a much changed team. Mm-hmm. What do you make generally of this first leg?
I've got a lot to say about this one, but I was hoping Bayern would open a little bit bigger. I was hoping you'd be able to get them solidly kind of -110 on the draw no bet. They're a little bit shorter than that, closer to -120, -125, which is not really enough to tempt me in. I think Bayern will actually get backed in. I've been thinking about this quite a lot. I'll get onto my pick later, which is kind of a derivative of what we're talking about, But yeah, I was hoping for Bayern to open a bit bigger, but I still think they'll get backed.
Interesting. RJ, thoughts on the prices for the first leg?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by the Bayern price, to be honest, especially due to their injuries.
Yeah.
Right, the availability of players. I think, some of these injuries are long term, but they're without Kingsley Coman, Leimer, Marusic, Sarr. And then people who are questionable: Serge Gnabry, Musiala, Sane, Upa Meccano. I'm not sure of all those players' availability, but as of last night, early this morning, I know those four that I just mentioned last are questionable. Those are key players for this team. So again, we'll see based on the availability. We'll probably see some line movement closer towards kickoff, right? If these players are announced to be active in the squad, but at plus 145, yeah, I'm surprised to see that. I think based on that information about injuries and potential setbacks, a win for Bayern obviously is going to be crucial for them at home. So I think maybe that's why the odds makers have them as slight favorites. I think other than that, based on the significant absences, both these sides have great European pedigree. So as Steve said, it looks to be a pick 'em to me, and I would probably have Real Madrid as slight favorite share, to be honest, even on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I take your point about the injuries here because even if, and we suspect that the likes of Gnabry and Sane are going to play. I mean, Gnabry's hardly played all season. They could play. They might not be 100% fit. It's going to be an interesting call for Thomas Tuchel, certainly. I mean, I like Real Madrid at plus 175, I must admit. But we'll get to some plays in just a sec. What about goal line prices here? I mean, over and under the line, 2.5, the regular line, over and under 2.5, -162, over under plus 128, and the Asian line, the last I looked here, Steve, the line was 3, plus 102 over, -124 under. What are we expecting goals wise here?
If I had to bet anything, I would actually go under 2.5 on the prices. If you had a free $10 bet or something, just on value.
I've given my free bets away in the intro, so sorry.
I know. So, well, if I had to, gun to my head, I mean, I'm going to talk about my bet a bit later, but because I think there's a good chance of a draw, then that's why I would lean towards the under, but it's a tough one.
Will, overs, unders, any thoughts?
I'd slightly lean under 3 on the Asian line. In the Real Madrid Man City first leg, the under 2.75 got absolutely blasted in. So the sharps in Asia really like unders in that game. This is a similar profile. I think when you look at this match, you think goals. Most intuitive, you would think there's going to be goals in this game. Bayern are known for having a leaky defense. Both have got incredible offensive weapons at their disposal, but it's a Champions League semi-final first leg, and 3 is a high line. So I'd be leaning under 3.
Yeah, RJ, I'd be the same here. I just think it's semi-final first leg, it's Champions League, even though the two teams might necessarily not be known for their caution generally. Maybe the occasion you can factor in a little bit when it comes to entertainment and how many goals we'll actually see in that first leg.
Yeah, I'd be leaning towards under here as well. I had a hard time justifying or backing any over in this semifinal first leg because looking at the metrics, like Will said, Bayern's defense is typically leaky across most competitions, but in this competition they've kept a clean sheet in their last 3 home matches. You look at the flip side, Real Madrid have not failed to score on the road yet in this competition, so there's a little bit of give and take, but due to the fact that looking at the metrics being the first leg, I would take under 3 at -124 with the idea that, could there be 3 and potentially a push? Yes, but it's really hard to see 4+ goals here in this first leg.
Bayern have got a shocking record, haven't they, against Real Madrid recently? I don't know what the stat is. They've lost 6 of their last 7 against Real Madrid. I promised you picks. I haven't delivered. But but we can now. Steve, give me your selection officially on the P&L sheet for this first leg between Bayern and Real Madrid.
Yeah, this is a bit unusual for me, but the whole all season long, the Champions League main Asian lines and goal lines have just frustrated me. I feel like the books have always been one step ahead of me in this competition this year. The lines have always been more than what I've wanted. So, and I've tended to be at my best when I've gone outside of the box, like in the cards market or even on the money line. So I'm going to bet the tie here at plus 260. This is an official pick for 1 unit. And the main reason is because I believe that neither team will want to be out of this match after the first leg. They want to stay in the tie. I think if you offered both managers a draw right now, I think they would take it. I think Bayern will fancy themselves on the road, possibly more than at home, actually. I think their actual style and tactics could work really well at the Bernabeu in the second leg. As long as they're still in the tie, they've got very, very much every chance. And the thing with Real Madrid, we know that I was looking at this thread on Twitter today about how many English pundits, so-called experts, just keep dismissing them each year, claiming how lucky they are and things like that. And I don't deny that they have had their fortune in recent years, but they know how to get results in the Champions League. They're really hard to beat in this competition. And, I think I can't split these sides. Like for both legs, it wouldn't surprise me if both ties ended a draw, we go to extra time or even penalties. So call it sort of a hunch, call it, logic in terms of no one wanting to get beaten. I said I quite like probably the under goal line rather than the over as well, which again would lead more weight to a draw. The exact 1-1 feels about right here, if I'm being honest with you. And, rather than have these Asian goal lines do my head in, I'm going to go for a bit of value, plus 260 with BetRivers for the tie over 90 minutes, Dan. I don't think anyone gets beat.
Plus 600 if you want to play the 1-1 draw, incidentally. Will, you have got a play that will not be decided on the night, but you've got to get your money down ahead of it because it is to do with Bayern making it through to the final. What's your pick here?
Well, Dan, we're already on Bayern outright. And I think I just can't resist adding. At this price, Bayern to qualify plus 160, it's just too big. And I've made my money in betting prices indiscriminately that are bigger than they should be. And this is definitely one of those. But it's also very, very uncomfortable. Trusting this Bayern defense led by Eric Dier to keep out Vinicius Junior, Rodrigo, and Bellingham is frankly a scary thought. But at plus 160, I think we're adding. So this narrative about Bayern kind of being lucky or underperforming this season, the data just doesn't back it up. If you look at the underlying data of the teams left in the competition and then the best teams in Europe in their domestic leagues, Bayern XG supremacy per 90, 1.55 per game or per 90. Bayer Leverkusen 1.21, Dortmund 0.50, Man City 1.21, PSG 0.93, and Real Madrid 1.05. So of the teams left in the competition, Bayern have at least a half a goal XG supremacy per 90 over the others. That tells me that their underlying processes, the chance creation and the chance creation against, is still that of a super elite team. Yes, the Bundesliga is arguably a lot weaker than the Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, not Liga. But, this is still a very, very dangerous team with very strong underlying data. At the same time, the eye test tells you they've got their weaknesses, and those weaknesses could quite easily be exposed by this Real Madrid team. Vinicius, Rodrigo, Bellingham against this Bayern defense. I mean, it's it does scare the life out of me, but I think we've got to add at plus 160. I mean, what price would this have been at the start of the season? I think it would have been a pick'em. I think you'd have seen minus 110 to qualify both sides. I make it plus 130, Bayern minus 130, Real Madrid to 100%. So I think the bet has to be Bayern plus 160 to go through. And I think we've got to hope that Leroy Sané, Musiala, hopefully those guys are good to go. I've got a feeling they were just rested over the weekend. Yes, they've got their niggles in training. I think Tuchel is wrapping them in cotton wool. Those are the two main pieces we need to see back. De Ligt, if De Ligt isn't fit, then Kim can come in. Dia's going to play come what may. So yeah, we've just got to hope that those guys that are questionable or even doubtful are closer to 100% than 50.
So we're pushing a few more chips onto the Bayern place on the table here. Nothing wrong with that. Plus 160. Just finally on Bayern, RJ, just to wrap up with you. I mean, obviously, Will likes Bayern to qualify, and I'll ask Steve as well. But RJ, I mean, who do you think? Forget the prices. Who do you think's going to go through to the final?
Yeah, I think it has to be. My opinion would be Real Madrid. I hear what Will's saying, especially from a price perspective, but I also heard a lot of prayers and wishes as well. All due respect, but I think I just would have to go Real Madrid. Forget about the prices, right? And that's just flipping a coin almost here because it is a very tight matchup. I do like the draw look in the first leg, especially, but I think come second leg, regardless of the outcome, I think Real Madrid will step up, right? And I don't know what the deficit is yet, right? They could be down, they could be up, but I just, I have a hard time going against Real Madrid just because of their pedigree and their form.
Steve, who do you think is going to go through quickly?
Bayern Munich. I think Thomas Tuchel's going to do a tactical job on Real Madrid in the second leg, like he did with the Chelsea against Real Madrid fixture a couple of years ago, and Chelsea should have gone through that night and didn't.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, I think it really hinges on injuries. I mean, De Ligt would be a miss. Kim's had a shocking season, hasn't he, really, this season for Bayern? He was meant to be the piece to come in, and Eric Dyer is a player who is, rushed over from the Premier League and now suddenly is a cornerstone of them. But it's going to be interesting. Team news could be key, and I don't say that usually, but for this one, it will be. Dortmund versus Paris Saint-Germain, Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern. Dortmund are plus 175 here. Paris Saint-Germain plus 143. The draw at plus 280. Over and underline is 3.5, incidentally. Let's talk our way through the markets, and we will get some plays from all of our three handicappers on this one. Steve, thoughts on that money line, first of all? I mean, Paris Saint-Germain were minus money in the group stages away at Dortmund. What's changed here? It was a 1-1 draw, a Dortmund better, a PSG worse. Is it just because it's a semi-final and there's a bit more respect for Dortmund now? How do you see it?
Well, the final group game, PSG were in a situation where they technically kind of had to win, or it looked like they were going to have to win. So that is why the odds were what they were. Now, as things transpired, a draw was enough for them. So the odds for that game need to be completely sort of taken away. We can't really use them as much of a guide. So Dortmund have obviously made it this far, and I've probably been one of the biggest critiques of them all season, haven't I? I can't believe they're actually here. I think they're by far the weakest side left. I thought they were the weakest side left in the quarterfinals. So, credit to them for getting through that Atletico Madrid match. They just seemed to things went their way, didn't they? In the second leg, they were roared on by a passionate home crowd. But I think PSG are just far superior. You look at the squad. They've got, I think PSG will win the first leg. Plus 143. I nearly had them as a pick, actually. But I know PSG have played well in both away games in the knockout phase. But I still can't ignore how poor they were at St. James's Park, how poor they were in Milan. And, if it's one of those sort of special European nights, we talk about this special European nights, don't we, at certain venues. Could Dortmund get inspired one more time? I'm almost just too scared to go against them. Almost something will go wrong if I tipped up PSG here. But I've just got to think logically with my brain, and the French side certainly over the 2 legs should have far too much, realistically.
Will, what's your thoughts? I mean, Paris Saint-Germain are minus 286 to qualify here. Dortmund are 2-1 shots to make the final. What do you think? I mean, I look at PSG price and think it's great, and then I look at some of the performances that they've had in this competition. And domestically, I mean, they're just a mess. I say they're a mess domestically. They won the title last night, but I can't square the circle with Paris Saint-Germain. I get sucked into it, and I watch the Real Sociedad game home and away, and I think, yes, this Paris Saint-Germain side are going to win the Champions League. Well, I don't know. What do you think?
I'm the exact same. Yeah, this is the nightmare semi-final for me because it's 2 teams that I really don't have a handle on. PSG, Jekyll and Hyde, exactly the same thoughts as you. Like if your betting is based off data, is based off statistics, is based off ratings, you can't ever really be backing PSG, frankly. But the weapons they've got at their disposal, particularly Kylian Mbappe, probably the best footballer in the world right now. And you don't want to take him on, and especially you don't want to take him on with this Dortmund defense. At the same time, PSG are favourites here, and there's no way on earth I could be backing PSG as away favourites in a Champions League semi-final. So regrettably, I don't have an angle into this game on the main markets. I do have a pick that I'll come on to later, but it's definitely in one of the side markets.
This is it, RJ. I mean, James put PSG up at the weekend to win by 2 effectively, and they drew with Le Havre. They won games 4-1 prior to that. We saw the Barcelona game. I'm not quite sure because of the sending off how much we can read into that game. But then I still look at Dortmund and I think, well, how are they there? Paris Saint-Germain at nearly 6-4 in English money. I'm thinking, God, that's got to be a bet, hasn't it? I don't know. What are your money line thoughts before we get into the overs unders?
Yeah, money line is tough. I really don't have a strong opinion in either side. To be fair, I agree with all the boys' points here. Dortmund's form is a bit mixed lately. They suffered a 4-1 defeat over the weekend to RB Leipzig. They are more stable at home. They've only lost twice in their last 12 matches at Aduna Park. So you have that, right? They obviously have the backing of the fans, and they just play well at home. But then you have PSG, winners of the league yesterday, right? Domestically, going for the treble domestically. And they haven't lost in their last 15. They haven't lost. Yeah, they haven't lost in their last 15 away matches, winning 12 of those. They had a draw over the weekend with Le Havre. That was good enough to get the domestic crown. So, right, maybe they just they're just like I think Will said, a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde. You just never know sometimes what you're going to get, especially in the European competitions. But it's tough. This is a really, really tough one. And I mean, I really don't have an opinion on either side. If anything, long shot draw would be my choice here on the main markets.
Let's get to overs and unders. The Asian line is 3.25. Over -104, under -121. RJ, you do have a pick here. What is your pick on that Asian goal line?
Yeah, so I'm a little thanks Dan. I'm a little surprised to see this number as high as it is. I think if you look at PSG's away form so far, especially in this competition, I guess you could argue that there could be a decent amount of goals here, but I like under 3.25 goals at -121. I think this number is just a bit too high, especially for the first leg. And you look at the previous encounters between these two teams, right? Dortmund has 1 win, 2 draws, and 2 losses. Their last meeting early in the group stage in December, PSG defeated Dortmund 2-0, and then they drew 1-1 on the road in the second contest. I think this match, could hinge. I mean, let's face it. PSG has Mbappe, Dortmund do not. They don't have a player of that caliber, so Mbappe could change this game himself solely. And I think it all depends on how this match starts, right? Because if PSG get out early, or especially if Dortmund ends up sneaking in and scoring early, especially in the first half, that could open this game up. I just have a hard time based on Dortmund's historical performances at home, how strong they are, the defensive abilities to keep clean sheets, even against a side like this with Mbappe, if you ask me, it's 4+ goals is a very big long shot, a big reach, and at -121, I'll take that all day. With the chance of, even if there is 3 goals, you would get half stake returned and you'd win half stake. So I really like that, and this is the only play that I really liked in this semifinal round, first leg.
Yeah, under 3.25 goals for RJ on the goal line. Just briefly from Steve and Will. Will, what do you make of the goal line here? I mean, you've got that Dortmund defense, and I don't know how, but they've got the joint most clean sheets in the competition. So we've got to give them some credit there, or do we? Does XG tell us something else? Would you play unders or overs on that Asian line?
Yeah, I actually really like that stat, Dan. They've kept the joint most clean sheets in the competition, but allowed the most average shots on target per 90. I think that is the story of Dortmund in this year's Champions League. Is they're very lucky to be here, and now they're up against Kylian Mbappe, and being on unders feels really uncomfortable. But I think,
a good uncomfortable though.
Yeah, exactly. You read my mind where I was going with that. I think you've got to be on unders if you're on anything here. The line's more than adjusted for it. Everybody's going to want to be on the overs. I'm going to see Kylian Mbappe shredding this Dortmund defense to pieces. But yeah, I think unders is probably a slight bit of value here. So I think RJ's got the right side. And I loved his conviction as well. All day unders. I love that.
Steve, quickly on overs, unders.
Oh, Will said it right. I wanted to be on the over here. As soon as I saw the fixture, I was hoping that we'd get a nice 2.75 goal line, or a juicy 3 goal line to go on the over. Because honestly, from a purely soccer point of view, I think the match will go over 3.5. However, you can't deny the value bet is the under, isn't it? The goal line's too high. It shouldn't be set. I mean, it's between 3.25 and 3.5. It's just so annoying. This competition's annoyed me all season like this. Every time I really fancied an over, the line's like two lines higher than I want it to be. So this is just Champions League for you. And there's no doubt from a value perspective, RJ has got it there.
RJ? Anything else to add? No. Yes.
No. I appreciate the boys backing me. It's a bit. It is a bit uncomfortable, as you know. I like totals.
You're an overs man. You're an overs man.
But,
we have
changed the
lead. We have got a couple of picks for you, prop bets here. I mean, it's usually RJ who goes through the prop bets, and Steve and Will who are looking at the more regular markets, but not for the semi-finals. Bit of a diversion here. Will, you're first up with your play. I mean, you said. You questioned whether you wanted this. Is this an official play? Did you question, us or yourself with your play here on the WhatsApp
I wasn't
group?
questioning myself. I was just, I was just wondering whether it was permitted and within the rules. I'll leave it up to the powers that be to make that decision. But
we'll see if it wins before we put it down on the P&L. What's your prop bet that you have?
It's not often that I branch off into the prop markets, but I think I've found somebody that's just way too big to have a shot on target here. It's Bradley Barcola to have over half a shot on target. So 1 shot on target or more needed for this bet to win. It's the price that's attractive, plus 138. I think it's far too big. I think it's probably about a 50-50 chance. Bradley Barcola plays as a right wing forward for PSG, and he's likely to start here. It'll probably be Kylian Mbappe, Ousmane Dembele, and Bradley Barcola. And he averages 0.74 shots on target per 90 domestically in Ligue 1. I don't have the stats for Champions League, but I think that's a fairly reliable sample size to rely on. If you look through this market and you compare Bradley Barcola's price with similar profiles, similar players of similar profiles with similar-ish data sets, you've got guys like Ousmane Dembele, who's also likely to start. He averages 0.79 shots on target per 90 in Ligue 1 this season, but he's minus 139. So that's plus 138 Bradley Barcola, minus 139 Ousmane Dembele. I don't see why those prices are so different. Marco Asensio, probably not even going to start, minus 180 Marco Asensio. 0.87 shots on target per 90 average for PSG. Most of the time he's a substitute, so he's more likely to kind of be an impactful substitute, and therefore his data per 90 of shots on target is more likely to be elevated because they'll come on towards the end of a game when things are perhaps a bit more open. Lee Kang-in, plus 118. So also shorter than Bradley Barcola, a player that plays often in midfield, sometimes in more forward positions. He only averages 0.50 shots on target per 90, so considerably less than Bradley Barcola. I wouldn't say he's guaranteed to start. There is a chance that Lee Kang-in could play in that position, or maybe even Marco Asensio, but I'd say he's 75 to 80% likely to start, and at plus 138, it's too big for him to have at least one shot on target.
Yeah, just looking at some numbers here, he's had a shot on target in 5 of his last 6 in the Champions League, and he hasn't started all of those. So, I mean, that sounds like the average is very much in your favour. And we're going to go. I mean, we've got to go out swinging for the Champions League. So not just this week, but I'm expecting some big prizes next week and for the final as well. But Steve started the ball rolling here with a significant selection to round things up for the show. Steve.
Yeah, it's like I said before, I'm looking a bit outside the box now, Dan, for the rest of this competition. While the main lines frustrate me, I'm going to back a goal scorer. I'm actually going to back one player who I believe is one of the most overrated in world football.
Sell it to us, Steve.
And that is Ousmane Dembele, who, honestly, there's at times I watch him and I think, what's all the fuss and what's all the hype about? However, he's plus 340 to score any time in this game, which I think is too big because he's actually looked quite good recently. It might be the best I've seen him for probably several years. He scored in both legs against Barcelona. He scored a brace against Lorient. And one of the finishes in that game was just not typical of. Usually he's wildly off target with that sort of chance. And I was like, wow, he looks really sharp. So plus 340 looks a big price. Dortmund's main left back, Remy Bensebaini, is injured for this game. And I always quite like Bensebaini down the years. I think he's defensively robust. Ian Maatsen's going to play in that spot for Dortmund. And I bear in mind, Maatsen was playing in the Championship last season for Burnley. And I think he's actually quite a good offensive player. I mean, he's more actually a better left midfielder sort of guy. He may well be getting forward quite a lot and he'd be caught out of position. He does have the pace to get back, but I think Dembele could get quite a bit of time and space potentially here and catch him out of position. Like I said, cuts inside, a man with confidence, striking the ball well, and all the attention is going to be on Mbappe. Barcola is a big threat as well. I actually think Barcola's a better long-term talent, to be fair.
100%.
And but Dembele. Let's not forget he was once a Dortmund player as well. How often does a player come back and score against his former club? Just looking back at the numbers, I can't believe Barcelona actually bought him for 135 million. What an absolute waste of money that was. It really was. Like I said, I think he's one of the most overrated players in world football, but I'm backing him to score any time in this game. So come on, Ousmane Dembele, get me a goal.
Dembele to score at any time. What did you say? Plus 360, is it now?
Plus 340. Plus
340. So it's just a little bit of support for that one. And finally, then, just to wrap things up here, who will make the final? Do we think RJ? Look, Paris Saint-Germain are short price favorites. Do you think there's going to be an upset over the course of the 2 legs? I mean, I'm not saying that we'd recommend anyone backing them at minus 286, but do you think Paris Saint-Germain will make the final? Or do you think Dortmund will make the final?
I do. I think PSG, simply because they have Mbappe, and as Will stated, he's probably arguably the best footballer in the world right now, and I think he has the ability to solely change this leg in this round between them and Dortmund, and I think Real Madrid advances. So I would, if I had to pick, it'd be Real Madrid versus PSG in the final, and I've kind of always had PSG's back over the last few years. I'm rooting for them. I want them to get this trophy that they've so eagerly awaited. Have Mbappe finally get it as well before he potentially moves on, and it's kind of a storybook ending for them.
We'll see what happens. Will, can you make a case with Dortmund here at the prices? Is it just PSG will qualify here?
Yeah, you can make a case for Dortmund at the prices. I mean, betting is not just about predicting who you think is going to win, because I think we can all do that, but you've got to extrapolate that to some sort of probability and then look at the odds. And so if you're looking at the odds on Real Madrid to qualify here and PSG at -225, -286 respectively, you parlay those together, you're probably still not even reached even money. That is terrible value in my eyes. So I would like to take the other side of that bet, and I'd say, Dortmund and Bayern, have got higher than 50-50 chance of at least one of these getting through to the final.
Interesting way to look at it. Steve, PSG should make it through.
Yeah, I take Will's point actually about the value. You're not really getting any value by backing PSG and Real Madrid, are you, to make the final? But logically, really, PSG should have too much. They did meet in the group stages as well, so there's no real surprises. And PSG have the home leg second, which I think is quite important. Atletico Madrid got caught out by that in the previous round, and I mean, remember that group stage match? PSG controlled it really well. So even if there's a deficit going into Paris, I think they will get through. I think we're going to get a repeat of the COVID final, Dan. Bayern against PSG. Could we get a repeat?
Oh, was it Kingsley Coman?
Was it Coman? Coman again. It was Coman
yeah.
Against his former club.
Yeah.
So, but alternatively, we could still get the previous Wembley final, couldn't we? Dortmund against Bayern. So.
And it is at Wembley.
Interesting.
Brilliant stuff. That wraps up Betting Weekly Extra Time Champions League edition. Many thanks to Steve, Will, and RJ. You got 5 plays to go over the course of the 2 days of action. And later this week, the boys will be tackling the Europa and Conference League. So watch out for the best bets in those competitions. For now, though, from all of us, it's goodbye.